Welcome again to my deck as we finish up this project, the COVID-19 Altered Book Project. So this was the section I finished up this morning. I used the painted paper, cut it into strips and put that around as frames. I went back with watercolors and went around the words and then smudged out the paint with my fingers, so it was like finger painting. I added in a little bit of writing, talking about how Friday the 13th of March was our last day in school. I added a little bit more onto this whole page that included China, with the arrows coming out, and I highlighted the edge of China in there, and I drew in a little virus in the corner. So that's kind of my intro page, though I did it later on in the project. It fits as something like a prologue. So it just sort of fit with what was going on in the book, so I used what was there to kind of move my theme forward. So I'm going to show you what I ended up working on again this morning. So my next section, I decided to base it off of the economy. So it's kind of political, but without it being too political. So I used duct tape to do my framing, and I ripped it in half so I wouldn't have too thick a piece. And I did extra thin around this edge because I didn't want the duct tape to show on my previous page. So I used thin strips here and then thicker strips here to kind of go around the edge of that page. And then I simply went through my newspaper, and it had a little picture of the Dow Jones sort of crashing as the virus was sort of spreading and there was financial panic. And my mother told me about her little retirement account and how she's kind of depending on that, and she was worried, concerned that it was kind of tanking and there wasn't much sort of left in there. So this is kind of what that's about, is this financial stress on the country. People are losing their jobs. Restaurant owners are closing up if they can't just do takeout. So it's become a real financial hardship. So I found some images on the internet of some bills and printed those out, cut them out, and then I made them look like they're on fire. Now the good news is today we got information that the government would be helping with sending some checks and all, so it's kind of related to that whole financial bit. So I actually went ahead and did two sections, and the next one doesn't really need a tutorial, but here this was easy enough. I just cut out some images, I glued them in, and then I painted on top of it. The next one, I did a self-portrait, and I did it in a style called blind drawing, where I'm looking at myself in a mirror. So I have a little portable plastic mirror that I had, and I did a drawing of myself with a mask on. So I went to the doctor's the other day just to get my regular annual checkup, and everybody got one of these disposable little masks. So I put that on, did a drawing of myself, threw in some watercolors. I could have used marker or whatever I wanted. I didn't white out the page. I kind of wanted the text in there. And as I was reading the text on the other page, there were actually some words in there that sort of fit. So eyed, strained face, long disheveled hair, you look awful. Face took on a pained expression, feverish, he stuttered, he held his tongue. So when you put on the mask, you're kind of holding your tongue. And I may just, glue this in there. I'm not quite sure what I want to do with it yet, but this is disposable. It's not really going to be helpful anymore. So I'm going to think of some way to kind of integrate that. I might put a pocket in here and then kind of stick it in because I have enough room. So I'm going to continue doing this project, but for my students, I have a feeling this is about as far as you're going to go. So let me just kind of review very quickly what I did. So I have the cover of the book, and because I used wheat paste, I ended up finding this gel matte medium. So it's acrylic, you can water it down, and I gave everything a gloss coating, which helps kind of seal things. This stuff is really kind of good. You can use it as a glue or whatever, but if you don't have it, that's fine. You can actually use clear acrylic floor wax, which is very cheap, and that's something that can be used as kind of a clear coat. So that's another hack that you can use. So we had the inner page that I already discussed. We have my toilet paper page where people were kind of panicking, and I used some string to put that in there with an article about what was going on. I have kind of pictures of my life early on in the virus and kind of how I enjoy gardening and cooking for my friends and how we had to store our food and stuff. Then this was a letter to my father who passed away, saying the things I wish I could, say to him now during this crisis. This was a Father's Day card that I wasn't able to give him because he had passed away before then. This is my page of thank yous and your welcomes. So all the people who have done something to help me out, I've put there, and I'll keep that going. And then if I help someone else out, I'm recording that here as my your welcomes. And then the seeds are representing some seeds that I gave to my neighbors. And then this is sort of the news, and I did a cross out poem where I just leave some words in there. And then we have our final 1 and 2. So that's what I'm expecting my students to do, but I'm gonna go ahead and do a professional version as me as an artist. As my students, that's kind of what I would expect from them. But I happen to get one of these gigundous books from my sister. She works for a publishing company, and they get lots of blank samples. So I'm gonna go crazy with this and decorate up my cover and everything, and I'm gonna do my own art experience. Now, if you've enjoyed this project, I hope you'll continue with it. There are lots more pages where I can add in some more, and I think I will, and I'll probably add in a few more tutorials as I go. But this is going to be this is the end of my regular video posts on this, but I will add some in the future. I'm thinking of this as my sketch. I'm a professional artist. I know I can do better than this. I'm trying to do these quickly so my students don't get bored. But there's a lot of really good ideas that I can pull from this and put into my professional version. So if you're an artist and not necessarily a teacher, you might be interested in that. But for my students, I would encourage you to keep doing this. If you have me for next semester, we may be doing a little bit more in this project along with some other stuff. So thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and subscribe and maybe even pass this series on to a friend that you think would benefit.